Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's press conference, Terrorism Has No Faith, United Against Extremism. My name is Polly McNeill. I'm going to be chairing the press conference this morning. I'm also the chair of the Scottish Forum on the Middle East and North Africa. Just to begin with some practicalities, I know we've got to move some microphones up and down depending on who's speaking, and if you could make sure that all mobile phones are switched off, that would be helpful. You're going to be hearing from 4 different speakers this morning, and I'll introduce them in turn. But suffice to say that this morning we have on the platform all the different sects of Islam, different organisations uniting together this morning under this banner. I'd first like to introduce to you Sheikh Hassan from the Za'al Quran organisation, and he will speak for a couple of minutes about this topic. Sheikh Hassan.
I think before starting, probably be appropriate if you can just take a minute's silence for those people who were brutally murdered in the recent attacks. The tragic events which took place in Kuwait, France and Tunisia have brought great sadness to our community as a whole in Scotland. Once again, a religion which for thousands of Muslims in Scotland is a source of peace, comfort and inspiration has been used as an excuse to create terror. The Prophet Muhammad, upon him be peace, whom Muslims identify as a prophet of mercy, is unfortunately being portrayed falsely by these savages as a prophet of terror who propagated a religion of terror. Let me reassure you all that we Muslims here in Scotland denounce these terrible attacks and send our deepest heartfelt condolences to those affected by these attacks, in particular to the Scottish families who lost their loved ones in the brutal attack and the brutal murders in Tunisia. Let me reassure you all that these terrorists have no religion and no faith. Both Muslims and non-Muslims have fallen victim to their terror. They have beheaded and killed thousands of Muslims for objecting to their policies and have executed many Sunni and Shia clerics for refusing to swear allegiance to them. They treat all their targets as one and do not consider anyone worthy of living except those who accept their extreme ideology. In the view of ISIS and other extremist organizations, amongst the 1 billion or so Muslims, only a small number of ISIS members are actually Muslims, and the rest are non-Muslims. So the question for us is, what can we do in these actually troubling times? And in such times, I believe we as a peaceful Scottish community can come together and build even stronger relations to tackle the ISIS hate. These terrorists want our communities to break down. They want hatred and animosity to breed in each and every community. And our simple reply to ISIS should be no, we're not going to let this happen. Edmund Burke, the famous Irish philosopher, said, evil prevails when good people fail to act. So I believe it's our responsibility, the responsibility of everyone, and in particular of Muslim academics, researchers, scholars, religious and political leaders, to speak out and condemn these barbaric acts. In October 2014, our Prime Minister David Cameron said that those British who travelled to join ISIS, they're an enemy of the state. I like to re-emphasise that not only are they an enemy to our state, they're also an enemy of Islam. And my advice to young Muslims, if you find yourself becoming convinced by the ISIS rhetoric, know that your faith is seriously at risk and you must seek relevant help. You do not have to be well versed in Islam or be an Islamic scholar to know that the actions of these groups are contradictory and completely contrary to the very nature of Islam. Islam teaches us the middle way, the way of moderation. We are taught to be moderate in our worship, in our social conduct, even in our consumption of food and our personal expenditure. Extremism of any form has no place in this religion. Our religion is based on compassion, love, and mercy. Our Prophet Muhammad, upon him be peace, would often be asked that what is the best form of Islam? And he would reply, the Islam of that individual has reached the best heights, whose tongue and hands all people, Muslims and non-Muslims, are safe. So the community in Scotland have a long tradition of peace and love, and we will not let anyone harm this, especially these barbaric ISIS terrorists. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh Hassan. The organisations who called this press conference this morning: British Council for Islamic Guidance, the Glasgow Ahlul Bayt Association, the Muslim League UK, the Scottish Youth Forum, Scottish Asian for Independence, Scottish Forum for Middle East and North Africa, and Zai al-Quran, who you've just heard from. And in full support of this press conference this morning is the Muslim Council for Scotland, who are the umbrella organisation for the Muslim organisations in Scotland, and they've appeared on almost every platform on this topic and have done some wonderful work in terms of building relations in the community. So it's my pleasure to call on Dr. Gill from the Muslim Council of Scotland to say a few words in support of this morning's press conference.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I, as the convener of the Muslim Council of Scotland, which is the umbrella organization of almost all Muslim organizations, including the mosques in Scotland, and condemn in the strongest possible words the barbaric activities committed by ISIS, the so-called Islamic State, whether in Kuwait, France, Tunisia, and elsewhere as well. Of course, this is not a new monster. They are committing such crimes for the past couple of years, almost everywhere in the world. As Sheikh Hassan has mentioned, my submission will be very brief. They claim to carry out their acts in the name of Islam. They do not represent Islam. The Muslim communities all over the world, as Sheikh Hassan mentioned, over 1 billion, they have rejected them and disassociated from them. No one in the mainstream Muslim community owns their perverted ideology. And we, as Muslim Council of Scotland, have a number of times previously condemned their activities, their heinous acts, and disassociated from them, and also at the same time urged the Muslim communities in Scotland to be peaceful, to clearly understand what Islam is, and also to be away from and not be influenced by whatever these terrorist organizations, ISIS being the foremost of them, is trying to induce them to. We condemn unreservedly their psychopathic violence, where it is on minorities, on civilians, on even the Muslims, clerics, scholars. And I would like to mention here that the Muslims themselves are their prime victims. The number of Muslims they have killed across all the sects of Muslims is, I would say, hundreds of times more than they have killed the minorities. But Islam regards every single individual as a humanity when the matter comes, as a whole of the humanity when the matter comes. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Prophet Muhammad has advised us that if one person is killed, it is like unjustly, it is like killing the whole of the humanity. And they have killed, I would say, hundreds and thousands of people unjustly. Therefore, they are killing the whole of the humanity. These are the crimes against humanity. At the same time, They are committing these events every day, every now and then, to galvanize their position through the media as well. I would request our friends in the media as well. Of course, reporting such a serious and heinous crime is a big item of interest for media, but please refrain from presenting those news pictures in the media so that those, publicity-hungry, craving for publicity organizations, they think they have delivered their goods and they have won more publicity. And in the end, I would urge the Scottish Muslims and the non-Muslim friends, as we have on the table, and we just heard the names of all the organizations, some of which are not physically represented here, but they are supporting this event, to be united and to remain calm and to be vigilant, and particularly the young Muslim communities, not to be swayed away from the mainstream Islam by these kind of hate preachers who brainwash them, mentally hijack them. Muslim Council of Scotland, with its limited resources, we have started campaigns of education as well. During the past 6 months, we have had training workshops of imams and mosque committees so that they understand what the problem is and then they impart knowledge to their congregations and through them. And just after the month of Ramadan, we have planned a similar exercise for the remaining 6 months of the year, targeted at the young Muslims in the community to educate them on what is actual terrorism, what are the extremist ideologies, and how can we counter the dangers of internet and other violent crimes. And we hope if we stand united and take actions in the right directions, we will win, not the terrorists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gill. Our next speaker is representing the Bayt Society, whose building you are in now. And they have done wonderful work with young people, children and others, and harmonisation within the Scottish community. And of their beliefs. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Ahmed Kawir, who will speak on behalf of the Bayt Society and tell you a little bit more about the work of the Society and how important it is to the Scottish community. Have you all the mics in, please?
So, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Peace be upon you all. It's a great opportunity to come and speak here today. I'm just going to elaborate a bit more on within the context of the Middle East, and then also bring on some practical solutions later on. As has been mentioned, we are witnessing crimes against humanity across the world. We must use our ability to speak out in condemnation, but this is a great opportunity for communities to show solidarity, friendship and love. This will be the greatest statement we can ever make. Our hearts and minds are much stronger than those criminals who think by sticking a flag in the ground they have legitimacy to stand for a whole religion. They disgust me. They have tried to turn the beautiful submission to God into a vile, violent cult exercise. They have many names, but I'm not interested in promoting their names. I'm interested in challenging their weak and pathetic ideology. Particularly in the Middle East, Asia and Africa, there are countless massacres of innocent civilians which include all faiths and cultures. Their desecration of graves of the noble and bombing holy places of worship, destroying cultural sites and heritage. Are these the acts of faithful people, we ask? Or are these the acts of criminal thugs who want mafia rule? Their methods are not new. Throughout history, perpetrators of violence have carried out heinous acts just like these criminals. They have no ethical or moral code, so their crimes are not surprising. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his holy family, the most merciful and upright individual, was constantly attacked throughout his time. And to this day, his followers and people across humanity alike continue to be attacked to this day. For when any human being is killed indiscriminately, unjustly, they have attacked us all. For the Prophet used to say, the human society is like one body. When one part dies, the rest of the body suffers. So the murders we hear about on a daily basis hurt us all. And we must be part of healing that body again. Now, the clear focus of these groups is to destroy the spirit of the Muslims and humanity alike. Since their inception, these criminal gangs have attempted to sow discord between Muslims and create sectarian wars and thus self-capitulation. And unfortunately, they have succeeded with some people in some organisations, but slowly, I'd like to think that there's a movement towards understanding. On that note, I want to draw our attention to another atrocity that was carried out last Friday in Kuwait. Hundreds of people gathered for a mass prayer on the holy day of Friday in the holy month of Ramadan. On a hot day, whilst worshippers were fasting, a suicide bomber detonates himself, murdering at least 27 people and injuring hundreds. This is an all too common sight in the Middle East and beyond. I was, however, moved when later on Muslims of all backgrounds came together, that included Shias and Sunnis, in the Imam Bakr Mosque. Instead of blaming the other, they embraced each other in worship. Instead of raising their arms in hatred, they embraced in the worship of God. In Islam, we can only love righteous acts and despise the criminal, as you cannot be a lover of peace and a promoter of violence. So when you address a problem like this, you must identify it and diagnose it. The clear diagnosis here is ignorance. Ignorance from these individuals to believe they're acting on a religious doctrine, ignorance of those who associate their crimes with religion, such as Islam, ignorance of those who feed their propaganda, obliviously creating an illusion of their superficial power, ignorance of Muslims who do not know what their brothers in faith believe in, and ignorance of those who think their only way is the only way and all others must perish. This ignorance belies the human beings as an intellectual species, a species which can institutionalize a promotion of progress, a promotion of peace and humanity across the world. This is a collective responsibility and one that cannot be shifted to one individual or one group only. Now, we in Scotland can make a difference. We must clarify the way of peace and love through a united stand, backed by true knowledge. The youth must take a notice and use credible online role models instead of being warped by propaganda videos, which are then perpetuated by some media outlets as some form of gorish entertainment or disproportionate amount of videos inciting hatred of any form. A fundamental understanding of universal ideologies such as loving for your brother what you love for yourself, or seeing every human as you're either brother in faith or equal in humanity, and referring back to the social justice framework exemplified by the Holy Quran that must be at the heart of the intellectual revolution. So we're here not just to express our view, but to also make clear what we can do on a positive basis. It's warming to hear about the many social engagement projects being carried out and that are in the planning stage, and hopefully we can discuss this a bit more. We continue to support the efforts of the police and security authorities in helping to protect all individuals, Muslims and non-Muslims, from hate crimes and the actions of all criminal gangs. I pray to God that human beings are allowed to live in peace and we understand our individual responsibility as a promoter of peace. And peace be upon you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Our final speaker is Sheikh Rehan, who I thought spoke very eloquently this morning on BBC Radio Scotland. Sheikh Rehan represents Minhaj al-Quran, which has representation in over 80 countries around the world. So you'll hear from Sheikh Rehan now and about the work that Minhaj Quran does.
Allah's name I begin, the most compassionate and ever merciful. Blessings and peace be upon our master, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you. First of all, I would like to say that we strongly condemn these acts of brutality and terrorism which have struck Kuwait, France and Tunisia and left the whole world shocked. Our condolences go out to the family members whose loved ones have been victim to such heinous crimes, and we hope the perpetrators are brought to justice. This is the time to unite as mankind, as a community, and defeat these terrorists who have plagued the human society and threatened global peace. We will not allow our faith to be hijacked by a handful of terrorists who carry out atrocities in the name of Islam. We will continuously, ideologically and intellectually challenge the cancerous ideology of the terrorists in order to reclaim our faith. Terrorism is a crime against humanity, and when this is perpetrated, it contains 5 other crimes within it. Crime against the Creator, crime against humanity, crime against those it's directed towards, the victims, the crime against the perpetrator himself, who has wronged his own soul, and crime against the community which he belongs to. We reject unequivocally all terrorism because at the heart of all religions is a belief in the sanctity of lives of the innocent. The indiscriminate nature of terrorism, which has in recent years killed more civilians and other non-combatants than combatants, is un-Islamic, un-Judaic, un-Christian, and indeed incompatible with the true teachings of all faiths. Because of its manifestly indiscriminate and therefore murderous nature, we condemn all terrorism in all its forms and manifestations in all countries, regardless of any claimed religious or political intentions. We unequivocally reject, disown and condemn all terrorism committed in the name of Islam, just as we reject and condemn all terrorism committed in the name of other religions or causes. Terrorism is never a legitimate means, an honourable act, but it's always a cowardly and an act of indiscriminate murder. We support efforts by international agencies, governments and communities to protect world citizens from terrorism, and we as a Scottish Muslim community commit ourselves to assisting in dealing with extremism and de-radicalisation of those groups and individuals who might mistakenly believe that their religion tolerates indiscriminate murder and wanton violence. It is for this very reason we as Muslims have been continuously battling against extremist narrative over decades. One of the leading Muslim scholars, Shaykhul Islam Dr. Muhammad Tahir al-Qadri, who is the head of the worldwide organisation Minhaj al-Quran International, launched a fatwa against suicide bombing and terrorism in 2010, which completely dismantles the superficial justifications provided by the extremist groups. And last week, the same scholar launched an Islamic curriculum on peace and counter-terrorism in London. The curriculum aims to provide resources from the Holy Quran, prophetic traditions, and authoritative books to provide a comprehensive, ideological, and theological background to all key areas that are utilized to brainwash and radicalize young boys, young children. There is a need to provide authentic, comprehensive material against the extremist narrative to all the people from every walk of life according to their needs, so that the conceptual and ideological confusions which may lead to terrorism can be eliminated. Therefore, to comprehend the faith of Islam, reliance should be on the fundamental sources interpreted by reliable and qualified Muslim scholars rather than unqualified who have no credentials to speak on Islam. When unqualified people are taken as authorities on Islam, this generates intellectual dissension, which leads to innocent people to distrust Muslims. The best way forward is to educate each other on the true values of our faith and not let a handful of extremists from both sides destroy the healthy fabric of our society and stop us from contributing to the world peace and human civilization. And a very vital point I want to mention here, which is mostly missed by the media, is that those who perpetrate acts of terrorism in the name of Islam, believing that it is permissible within the parameters of Islam, according to the classical Muslim authorities, according to the Quran and the prophetic teachings, they are out of the fold of Islam. They have no link with Islam. They are declared as non-Muslims, as out of the fold of Islam. They are not Muslims. They are not classified as Muslims. And to finish off, I would like to quote a saying of the Prophet ﷺ, who said, "A Muslim is he from whose tongue and hand other people remain safe from." In other words, he is a source of compassion, source of mercy, source of harmony for the community, and source of security. And unfortunately, those people who act in the name of Islam have nothing to do with Islam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Rehan. You can see the work that has been going on here for many years with these organisations working together. and all the good work that they do. Now we will take some questions if there are any.